Audio's rolling.
Welcome
Welcome
to episode. Then you go.
76.
Of Degenerates Clubhouse. We did it. Oh my God, that was so smooth.
It took me a while. I was like, I didn't know you were gonna ask me something. I was like in the middle of toggling between windows and shit and running the goddamn show. And anyway.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to distract you from your important work by trying to interact with you. I apologize.
It can be done, but it's a tiny little twist to being like a co-host / production or engineer or whatever you want to call this shit that I'm doing. It's a little
you're wearing many hats.
You gotta have to wear. Yeah, see, I have to operate left brain and right brain. You think about it.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
We're gonna give you extra credits when we roll the credits at the end of the show that you guys can't see because this is an audio format, but just mentally envision like roll credits like a movie, and it's just like produced by Armando Ramirez, sound engineering Armando Ramirez, starring Armando Ramirez, and it's just like a long 2-minute scroll of those credits. Yeah. Armando Ramirez, written by Aaron Jaffe. In so much that we have any writing in the show, there's occasionally writing, but not this episode. But all that being said, let us go back.
Let's go back
history
to history,
and we've covered we've covered a Roman emperor. I mean, there's so many Roman emperors that were degenerates.
Yeah.
Then it was Hans Christian Andersen, a beloved fairy tale writer who had a penchant for chronic masturbation, and now this is a little bit darker though, a little bit more screwed up. We're gonna talk about Charlie Chaplin. Spoiler alert: the Harvey Weinstein before there was a Harvey Weinstein.
Can I cut you off real quick?
Go for it.
So the episode that one with the Hans Christian Andersen, we named it, or I named it. We named it plus in reference to how he rated masturbation.
He journaled his masturbations. He had a journal, and then he would write plus anytime he had a masturbation episode.
So I posted the links on Facebook and all this shit, and then some old Lancer that's a Facebook friend of mine asked I don't understand the meaning of the title or something like that. I'm like, I didn't want to respond because there's an age gap between us and him. I'm like, I didn't want to tell this old guy it's a masturbating. I don't want to tell him the story. It's a masturbation reference. It felt kind of weird.
No, that's a good point because they didn't have masturbation, back in the old days. We only invented it, I think, probably mid-'90s.
Yeah.
So he'd be very confused. He was like, wait, you couldn't do that?
Yeah.
No, I think, Mondo, there's always been masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why? I know that because we had just read a fucking article. I was journaling about his jerk-off sessions.
Yeah. Moving on, this segment of Degenerates history, we are going to be discussing
Charlie Chaplin.
The great Charlie Chaplin.
Well, maybe not so great.
We'll find out. One of Hollywood's most readily recognizable stars, English actor Charlie Chaplin, 1889 to 1977, was the silent film era's most famous star and one of the silver screen's all-time greats. In addition to being a pioneer who revolutionized acting and comedy, Chaplin was also a sexual pervert who liked them young. So young as to cause scandal, derail his career, and get him de facto deported from the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be really screwed up to have a sexual deviancy that will get you deported from the U.S.
I didn't know that he liked them young. I didn't know that he was kind of a little bit of a perv.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't Pornhub with that category yet, so he had to just go IRL, and so maybe in a way Pornhub is doing a service.
Yeah, it does if you think about it.
It's those sexual deviants who are like, I still want to be a good person, but I have to meet those inclinations. There's a category for that, but not for old Charlie Chaplin. He was just he was doing, I think, a more realistic casting couch, perhaps.
You read ahead.
What?
So check this out. The line is, Chaplin also seems to have been Harvey Weinstein before there was a Harvey Weinstein, and is credited with pioneering the casting couch, whereby powerful...
Oh, he pioneered it? This was the inventor of it?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Whereby powerful Hollywood figures extracted sexual favors from actresses during auditions. Reportedly, Chaplin used caption cards during auditions to prompt aspiring actresses into increasingly suggestive acts and poses until they stood before him naked or nearly so.
Oh my! So wait, who is holding these cards?
It had to have been him.
No, it's like think there's like a random like crew member who's just she's like reading her lines. It's like yes, I think the sky is a beautiful blue today. Removes panties. Wait, what? Like, how does this relate to the? Shut up. Do you want the part or not? Oh my god, that's fucked up. I do like to imagine that they had someone. Like, have you ever seen
card?
Yeah, like in SNL, like just throwing the cards away as she was going. Somehow that makes it even more fucked up, though.
However, as kinks went beyond the run-of-the-mill quid pro quo sexual harassment and into the realm of the unusual, Chaplin had a thing for pies, and not just as comedic props and gags. Oh my God, this is the inventor of American Pie.
No, it's even weirder. Continue.
After getting actresses to disrobe during auditions, Chaplin would grope them in exaggerated ways on the couch, then, having worked himself up by getting them to do a striptease on demand, followed by a groping session on the couch, he would stand them naked against the wall and throw pies at them.
Which, I mean, oh God, it's definitely fucked up, but somehow it's really on brand for Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen any of his silent films?
I like little clips and like not an entire one.
It was like very like kind of slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a comedic silent film actor, and something about throwing the pies. It's like funny, but God, that had been humiliating. But I'm hoping there was just one girl that got sucked into his couch and was like, "Dude, this is cool. I'm getting pied by Charlie Chaplin." Like, hopefully, one of them thought it was funny.
I just find it kind of weird. He also had a penchant for orgies and liked to organize them with his friend and fellow comedic film star Fatty Arbuckle. Those orgies came to a screeching halt, however, in the aftermath of a scandal that rocked the country in 1921. Fatty Arbuckle was accused of raping a woman to death.
Oh, fuck.
And tried for murder. Although acquitted, the Chaplin Arbuckle orgy parties never resumed.
Jesus Christ. like you hear the name and you're like, oh, good old Fatty Arbuckle, because he was also, I think, a comedic actor. And then you're like, so what did Fatty Arbuckle get up to last night? He raped someone to death.
He put it in my butt until I died.
Jesus Christ. I mean,
I don't know how that could happen unless he really. I don't know who Fatty Arbuckle was. I imagine he's fat, right? He's got to be. It's not like
you would think, right?
It's not like an ironic name. Like
no, he was a large man,
and so he probably was like boning this chick, and she just got crushed to death or something.
I mean, he could have suffocated. I mean, you do hear about that in like times of war where it's like multiple guys just
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean that is a thing, like that's not talked about in war that often, where like there are some armies that will use rape almost as a weapon, but dude, just one guy, that's fucked up. Fatty Arbuckle. Maybe he suffocated her.
He had to have.
Jesus Christ, this just got extra dark.
Charlie's greatest scandals, however, arose from his propensity for cradle robbing. He liked much younger women. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, a pervert himself if there ever was one, had long disliked Chaplin's political leanings and used his sex scandals to launch a smear campaign against him. In 1944, he had Chaplin prosecuted for violating the Mann Act, which prohibits the transportation of women across state lines for sexual purposes.
Oh, fun fact, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who somehow is still in Congress, is also being investigated for violating the Mann Act because this came up. There was like his buddy, like his friend, who's into all sorts of shady dealing and money laundering and all this other shit, would hire prostitutes for Matt Gaetz, and like Matt Gaetz also apparently has some similar tastes to good old Charlie Chaplin.
Like young chicks?
Young, and they basically shipped a 17-year-old from Florida to wherever the fuck Matt Gaetz was in, I think the Carolinas or someplace like that.
Uh-huh.
But the whole point was that, they shipped a minor across state lines so Matt Gaetz could fuck her, and he did. It's all documented because the friend like literally kept the receipts, so to speak.
Oh shit.
And yeah, when they were busting him for all this other shady shit he did, the guy was like, "Oh, by the way, guess what? You might be interested about old Maddie." And yeah, so apparently the Mann Act is still a thing and still being violated by people with how did this article put it? Propensity for cradle robbing. Jesus Christ. And the dude's still in Congress.
In 1952, while Chaplin was in London for a film premiere, the U.S. Department of Justice revoked the British actor's re-entry visa and stated that he would have to submit an interview concerning his politics and morality before re-entering the U.S. Chaplin decided not to bother, cut his ties with the U.S., and settled in Switzerland.
Dude, that's what we have to do.
What?
We need to trick Matt Gaetz to leave the country and then just get his visa revoked.
Go to, but it's because he's a citizen. He should be able to come back. It's more because Chaplin was here on a visa.
That's a good point. It's a good point, Armando. we just need we just need to get him out of the country.
Yeah.
That's my point.
I don't know who Matt Gaetz is. Oh,
Yeah, that's good. That's, you know what?
Politics.
All the much better. They're
I don't understand the man was it called the man law?
Man Act.
I don't understand. So it's okay to like have sex with a minor as long as they're from the same state? Like I don't understand like the need for the additional, you know what I mean? Like the whole transporting someone across states. Like, is it okay if they're from the same state? Like, well, you get a slap on the wrist. There's got to be more to the Mann Act than I.
Named for Illinois Congressman James Robert Mann, the Mann Act invoked in the Commerce Clause is prohibiting the transportation across state lines of, quote, any woman or girl, for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery, or for any other immoral purpose. I think, does throwing pies at a naked woman fall under immoral purpose?
Yeah, of course.
As you can see from the wording, the law left plenty of room for interpretation. The racially charged term, quote, white slavery, referred to women being kidnapped and forced into prostitution, overhyped through the wide circulation of pamphlets in 1909 about a pervasive and depraved conspiracy to seduce Americans' girls. So, I mean, it's an act against sexual trafficking.
Got it. Don't do it. Don't sexually traffic. Just do sex with people in your state. Anyway, that was it for Degenerates history. Moving on to the world of the interwebs and the world of Reddit.
Does Reddit have questions for us?
Reddit has questions for. They had a ton of questions for us. Some goofy ones. The ones you sent. These are the ones you sent that I liked. Question number 1: how did you get your scar?
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
I've got a new one. I think I've already told the story about jumping through a car window, maybe multiple times, but this early September, I got an elbow surgery. And now I have a scar, a very thin surgical scar on my left elbow. And it was because there's like a nerve. Like your nerves are almost kind of like electrical wires in a way. I mean, that's the function they have. And so if you can imagine, there's like this electrical nerve that like runs from the shoulder like down through the elbow to the wrist, and that cord on me was just like popping out and rubbing over the bone, which isn't good. No, it's gonna fray the wire, and I mean it can heal itself over a long period of time. So they just like pulled it out of where it sits in the bone and just embedded it in the like muscle of my forearm, which is weird,
crazy.
And this is how I got that scar. That all probably started when I was 18 years old, and it was wrestling practice the night before a wrestling match against Springfield High School. And usually you're not gonna have like a real hard practice. Like you're just gonna do some technique. You're just gonna get like a little bit of a sweat going. It's pretty low key. And for some reason, our coaches decided that this was a great time to go over the spladle. I'm trying to think if you've ever would have seen that in MMA. Actually, do you remember there was one card where Aljamain Sterling and then like some other dude both submitted the guy with the same submission where I forget what they called it, like the Sulaimanov stretch or something like that. Do you remember this? No. But basically, I'll try to explain it. It's like the most embarrassing way to get pinned in wrestling. It's like you hook one leg over their leg, and then you kind of like arch around like behind their back, and you grab their other leg with both of your arms, and you're basically like stretching their legs like a wishbone apart. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're forcing them to kind of be in the splits, kind of?
Basically, but they're on their back like butt in the air with their in the split, like forcing them into the splits. It's it is the most embarrassing way to get pinned because you're just ass up in the air, leg split, and it's extremely painful. And for whatever reason, we're going over this thing, and I was like, "Oh, I actually think I figured out a way to get out of this. Like, I thought, I've invented the way to defeat the Spladle. So I was like, okay, Tom, like, put me in a Spladle. I think I figured out a way to get it out of it. That's what we're doing. And this motherfucker, like, I think the way his mind works, he was a very, very smart guy. Like, he ended up, I think he teaches theoretical physics at Princeton University now. But, like, the way his mind works is like, well, the best way to get out of a Spladle is not to get put into it. So to defeat his thing, I'm going to go, like, full blast. So we go from, like, just fucking around to, like, him, like, ripping my leg back as hard as he can. And both of our body weights, like, go over my one arm. And it hyperextends my elbow. Because it was like, 320 pounds of force just forcing my elbow out of the socket. Which was not ideal, not at all. Really fucked my elbow up, and like I couldn't. My elbow hurt, but the problem was I couldn't really use my hand. Like it was like like someone had kind of like partially unplugged the electrical cord. Where I'm like, it's not really working. This is a problem, and yeah, that was like my two of the big kind of like Varsity Blues type of moments where it's like I don't want your life, like because they wanted me to wrestle. The assistant coach, the next
were you Billy Bob or were you?
No, I was what was his name? James Vanderbeek. Yeah. The assistant coach was what was the dad's name? Was it Tim McGraw?
I don't remember.
No, it was like he was like telling me, he's like, you need to. It was literally like there was a hallway that went from our wrestling room. Our wrestling room was like on this second floor, like kind of balcony thing, and there was a hallway that would go down to our gym, and that's where we were having the wrestling match. And like I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm not wrestling if it doesn't matter for the match. He's like, you gotta wrestle, you gotta. I'm like, dude, I probably did curse him. I'm like, fuck off, like I'm not wrestling. He's like, and he keeps trying to get me to wrestle. And I'm like, dude, I want to be able to like. Hold this is I actually remember saying this. This is like 18-year-old me. Like I want to be able to hold my kids when I'm 40, which is crazy because this is when I had the surgery when I was 39, and he's like forget about like when you're 40, like you got a match right now. And that got me so fucking mad. Like he wasn't that big of a guy. He was probably like 150 pounds. I just remember like grabbing him under the armpit with my good arm and just like shoving him like up against the wall. And he had this look on his face of like, oh, maybe I fucked up right now. Like, yeah. He's going to kill me. But then he was kind of like laughing nervously. He's like, oh, all right, like, at least you're like pumped up now. I'm like, dude, have you not been listening, you motherfucker? And like, I just put him down. I'm like, all right, whatever. And I just told him I'm not wrestling unless it matters. And the weirdest part is it got to, I was wrestling heavyweight. So I was the last to go. I was always the last to wrestle. And it gets to the point where if I pin the kid, we'd win. Uh-huh. Like we were down 6 points. You get 7 points for a pin, but I had to pin the kid. And he starts like having like the JV heavyweight warm up. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, no, it doesn't matter. I'm like, did you not listen to anything I said? Like, apparently you can't do math either because if I pin, we're going to win. So I'm like, I'm going to wrestle. That's what I've been saying. Yeah, I just wasn't going to wrestle if it didn't matter. And I went out there and I learned that it's extremely hard to pin an athletic 250-pound kid if their coach has given them the explicit directions. Do anything you can to not get pinned. Right. Lose the match. Like, he wasn't even like, I'm trying to explain. He would almost like just dive onto his stomach and just like turtle up almost right before I could even do anything. And I only had one arm. Yeah. So we actually ended up going into overtime because I was just trying like the craziest shit I could to figure out how to flip this fucking kid over with one arm. And I remember it went into overtime and like he did that, like he just dove flat on the mat. And if you score in overtime, you win the match, but we were gonna lose because we wouldn't have got the pin. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, fuck. I remember that I had this like moment of existential crisis. I'm like, I think if I try to pin him, I'm gonna lose, but I could just take the win, but then our team loses. And then yeah, I just took the win because I'm like, I don't see a way through this. Like I've tried for 3 periods to pin this fucker, and then my team was mad at me. I was like, you know what, fuck you guys, fuck all of you. And that's how I got this scar, Armando. Still, you know what? I'm still mad about it. I'm gonna write angry worded letters to all of them. I'm gonna track all those kids down and be like, hey,
to your teammates,
you fuckers, and they're gonna be like, who, what?
Why would you write an angry letter to them and not to that coach?
Well, because they were mad at me. I was like, dude, I did this for you guys.
Huh.
Did this for you guys. The coach actually defended me afterwards. He was like, dude, he went out there and blah, blah. I was like, all right, that is literally the least you could have done, Coach Jim.
All right. I don't know if I told this story before. I don't know.
Hey, Mondo.
What?
I don't want your life.
Yeah. I don't know if I told this story already to you or because I know I've told the story. Anyway, when I was a kid, and stop me if the story sounds familiar.
Okay.
Stop me. Like say, hey, you told this one already. My grandparents would babysit me like in the mornings and in the afternoons after school while my folks were working or whatever.
Hold up. The story does not sound familiar. I don't
Okay.
remember you ever mentioning your grandparents. Uncles and nieces, nephews, never grandparents. I'm enthralled. Continue.
So I'm at my grandmother's place and she's got one of these old school like
Your abuela?
yeah.
I learned that word. Continue.
She's got one of these old school like they're not really instead of there being dryers back then there were things that would wring the water out of like washing like when you wash clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So these things had just two giant pins that would like do this rolly thing and you'd put your clothes in that garment and it would
I do remember this now.
So I did tell the story, right?
I think you did. I just didn't know it was your grandparents. Fuck.
See,
God, I got so excited for
I told you. I have another scar story. That one was the one that gave me like this thing here. But the another one
You can still tell that story. I mean,
Okay.
Everyone might remember it. Sorry.
So yeah, she's got these this thing that basically wrings the water out of like wet clothes and two giant pins, and she's like showing me like whatever you do, don't put your hand in here. And she would do this thing like she would flash her hand in and out. Don't do this because your hand will get sucked in and it'll. So I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. She leaves and like, what does a fucking dumb kid do? I put my fucking hand in the thing and it literally like sucked my entire arm in it, and I couldn't pull my arm out. It was pulling my arm all the way up to like past my elbow, and obviously I'm in fucking pain. I'm screaming. My grandmother comes running. She doesn't know what the fuck to do. She unplugs the whatever.
It was electric.
I don't know if it was electric. I made that part up, that little detail up, but whatever. She stopped the machine. The machine stopped. My arm's still caught in it. She runs next door because she knows that the neighbor's kind of mechanically inclined, and the neighbor brings out all his tools in a panic because my arm's like turning purple by that point. You can imagine every like second is crucial, and so he gets his tools out and basically pries my arm out of this thing, and I pull my arm out, and like the blood from my arm was gone, like literally, like you can imagine like putting like a string around your finger to cut off the circulation, how it turns purple, like that was my entire.
So
arm.
was it your left arm?
Yeah, my left arm, and so my left arm's like completely like dead. There's no blood in the motherfucker. And I don't remember if they rushed me in an ambulance or just drove me to the hospital. Luckily we were literally like 2 blocks away or maybe 3 blocks away from the hospital. Like there was a big hospital there. So we weren't too far, got there. And honestly, I don't remember all the little details about the doctor visit and all that. All I know is they gave me some kind of weird medication thing that somehow I imagine got the blood to circulate or whatever, like go again, and for some reason it left like a strange scar right here, like the inside of my, like right by my elbow. I don't know how. I don't understand how that led to a scar. I really don't. I can show you the scar. You'll be like, how the fuck did that do that? But anyway, so you got this weird little blotchy bad skin thing on the inside of my arm that
Well, and the machine wasn't on that part of your elbow.
No, the machine was like my entire, like it went beyond the elbow. If
I wonder if the blood got stuck so much that it was actually like stretching the skin.
Could be. I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, so I left this. I remember though, because they were giving me whatever this treatment or medicine or whatever they were giving me. Like the scar thing was like much bigger, and it kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller as like the stuff was working. Or.
I feel like there's always scenes in movies where like someone's getting like sucked inside something, or like those horror movies. Do you get special anxiety because of that experience?
No. I was so, I couldn't even tell you how old I was. I really don't remember if I was like 4 or 5 or if I was like 10. I don't remember how long ago it was. I'm sure my mom knows. I'm sure my actually, let's see if my mom's let's see if my mom's she is in the chat, but she's probably not listening yet. Anyway, yeah, so I don't really know how old I was. I got a scar. It was dumb kid thing. Like, but you shouldn't tell a kid not to do something and then walk away from them And, like, leaving the kids are curious and
how
dumb.
how would you parent/grandparent that situation?
I would fucking take them. I would not let them be in that room alone. Like, I would be like, hey, you're not.
Oh yeah, so you never. Where was this? For some reason, I was picturing this thing being outside. Where was it?
It was. I think it may have been like in a kind of semi-enclosed like backyard part of my grandparents' like house that they were renting back then.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily outdoors, but it was like, partially outdoors kind of thing. But yeah, I got a dumb scar and dumb,
I think the other takeaway is there's this thing called like a Wonder Bar, or it's just like this little like pry bar that's extremely useful for all sorts of things. Everyone, you should go get one of those just in case you're. I mean, that if you had one of those, I bet your grandmother could have just popped that thing open. She wouldn't have had to go get your neighbor.
But see, even then, what do? You see a fucking kid's arm entirely purple. It's got no circulation, no blood. You're like, what the fuck? So, I'm sure it was just more assurance for her to have another person there,
Fair enough.
That was it. Well, let's go see what Reddit's answers for that question were. Let's see. Reddit question. User Slight Faint writes, I fell in the shower while dancing. Now I have a titanium plate.
Oh, shit. What they were,
because you slip.
I've heard singing in the shower, but what psychopath dances in the shower?
That happened to my brother when he was a little kid. He was in the shower like a baby, right? And we had a babysitter, and I don't remember if like she slipped from his hands or she was. I don't remember exactly how it happened. My brother slipped and like busted his forehead open pretty bad when he was like a baby, and I think he still has a scar right here on like the middle of his forehead from that. But that was pretty fucked up.
Wait, you want to hear? I don't know why when you were talking about him dancing, that just triggered one of my earliest memories ever. It's not related to a scar.
Were you dancing?
No, I was in the bathtub. I was maybe two, 3 at the oldest, and I was in a bathtub. And I know I had like toys in the bath. And I had like a little.
Did you have Pinchy with you?
No, I didn't get Pinchy until I was 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
So this was 2 or 3 years prior.
Ooh.
And I just remember it was like a really warm bath, and I had toys in there, and I had like a little like plastic sailboat, and I must have gotten super relaxed because I don't know how I even did this. I just remember like turning around and I didn't even realize I did it, but somehow I'd pooped, and there was just like poop sitting on the sailboat.
What the fuck?
Exactly. That's why I remembered. I was so shocked. I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, Mom.
The origin story of Mr. Hanky.
There's poop on the sailboat.
Jesus Christ.
It was traumatic. Probably not as traumatic as your laundry story.
User Qwerty the Cool One writes, my sister blindfolded me and led me into a desk's corner. That's fucked up.
Jeez.
Holy shit. That's fucked up. Ugh.
I wonder, hopefully she didn't do it on purpose.
She blindfolded him and led him to the corner.
Well, no, not into it. So it sounds like she was maybe trying to lead him around the desk, and he just ran right into the corner.
All right.
I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to hope that humanity is not as terrible as we know it is.
Last answer I'll read for this one. User Jed Smokes Crack writes, I hit my... He writes, it's just like you already assume he's going to do some stupid shit with a name like that. He says, I hit my leg with a chainsaw. So there you go. Jed Smokes Crack. And then was one led to the other, I assume. Reddit question number 2. What are some red flags that you're in a bad neighborhood? Aron?
Graffiti is one.
Graffiti, okay.
That's a big one. I mean, so I remember like when I was living in Hamburg, Germany.
Okay.
I mean, the most of the neighborhoods are very nice in Hamburg, and I would just ride around. That was before like handheld GPS and phones or anything, so I just had this big map. I've
paper map.
Yeah, I've got it
for you kids.
Yeah, I've got it framed. A big paper map where I'd have to like open it up and like look around and try to figure out where I was. And yeah, I would just ride this bicycle all around Hamburg. And I remember, the architecture in Germany is like very nice. Like you can tell it's especially for those older parts of the city. There's all these like details and like metal work on the outside. It looks so cool. And then all of a sudden I ride into this neighborhood and like the buildings are just, there's no special adornments. They were like all like white or like an off-white. Like they looked like they were more newly constructed. And the deeper I got into there's just graffiti like everywhere, just on the outsides of the building, and they looked like they were row homes, and I was just like, oh no, I need to get the fuck out of here right now.
What's a row home?
It's kind of like a townhouse, but it's just townhouse after townhouse where they're all connected.
Oh.
So you'll have a block of houses where all the houses are connected, but you still have like you go into the house and you have the first, the second, sometimes third story.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's just what they're called. It's a row homes.
Yeah, I didn't know what that. That's not that. You don't find row homes. I don't think much in the West Coast. That's more of an East Coast thing, I think.
And Germany apparently.
Europe,
yeah. So yeah, I mean in Philadelphia they call them row homes. In New York they will call them brownstones because historically a lot of them were made of this brown stone, so they would actually all look brown. And then they just would call ones that weren't made of the brownstones just because that's what the rest of them were.
Very good. See, we are educating you, or Aaron's educating us, degenerates. We are learning something.
That's one shirt where anytime I start to see graffiti everywhere, I'm like, oh fuck, that's not good. Or KFC, that's the other. That's the harbinger of doom.
Is KFC
or Popeyes, or I mean any of the
how I know you're going.
I told you the worst place I ever lived. I had like the ghetto trifecta. We lived. It was a house that had been converted to 2 stories, and we lived above a drug dealer, next to a halfway house, across the street from a KFC.
Let's see. Just going back a little bit, looks like my mom caught up with us in the chat. She's saying I was 4 years old when that roller thing happened to me, and my brother was 2 when he got his scar in his forehead from the shower incident. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. My red flags that you're in a bad neighborhood. And you don't realize this until you move out of a bad neighborhood, is the constant sound of either police sirens, ambulances, and or we called it the ghetto bird. Like helicopter, like no joke, 2-3 times a week. You would hear the helicopter, you would see they have them the spotlights that they shine all over so you'd see the spotlight, you'd see the helicopter, you'd hear it. Every now and again you'd actually get a chance to hear like someone on one of them speakerphone things, like megaphone things, like saying, you couldn't hear what they were saying, but yeah, the signs of all that kind of. To me, this tells you how bad my neighborhood wasn't the worst, but it was so bad because all that to me became white noise, like ambulances, sirens, everything, all this stuff going off was like, I just live in that neighborhood. So when I moved to other parts of the country, like Bakersfield, it got like really quiet. I was like I don't hear. I mean, granted, there was crime in Bakersfield, like lots of it. There's a fucking bunch of like jails and shit out there. Like, people get dumped down to Bakersfield. But like here, the only time I'll ever hear an ambulance, and it's very, very rare, is like because I live next door to that retirement little home community thing. So if like I hear or see an ambulance, like it's because someone over there is someone over there is croaked. It's not because some crime has been committed. It's because someone's being rushed to the hospital. So. And again, to me, all that stuff just became white noise.
Mrs. Johnson got a little too excited at bingo night.
Yeah. So that's my sign. I lived in a bad neighborhood. User Superfly writes, I found out I lived in a bad neighborhood once when I was told pizza places didn't deliver to our house.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, shit.
That is next level.
User Looking for Bobo writes, the counter at every business has bulletproof glass. Yeah. Like the liquor store.
Or you know what? Here's another surefire one. Even more so than like KFCs and Popeyes. It's when there's a bunch of check cashing places. Those like advanced paid it.
Yeah.
Those things are the fucking devil.
They are the devil, but they take advantage of the not so
poor people who are living paycheck to paycheck,
and then they're charging you a fee for cashing your check, and they need their money now because they've got to settle their
fucking poor people tax. It is messed up. Those are the worst.
User, did this guy leave 2 answers? He did leave 2 answers. What a fucking selfish fucking Redditor. He left another answer. Looking for Bobo also writes, armed security guard at the strip mall Foot Locker.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Just having armed security guards at all, like even like watching your like the parking lot
wait, Mondo. Let's just end on that one. Armed security at the Foot Locker and go to Florida Man.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
perfect transition.
We have a story where maybe several armed security guards at the shoe store would have been necessary.
Right.
Because Florida Man, they went full Mission Impossible Ocean's 11 style to try to steal some shoes. Tell us about this story, Armando.
This week in Florida Man, a thief caught on camera burglarizing Miami shoe store leaves with 20 left sneakers. not even full pair. Because so I'm.
It had to be from the displays,
right? Yeah, I'm not. I haven't read the article. I think Aaron may have perused it a little bit, but yeah, he basically just stole all the shoes off of the wall of a display, and they don't put full pairs of shoes on the display. It's just the one that they want you to see for aesthetics, and then like, oh, give me that one in size 10. They bring out the whole pair.
The one flaw in their otherwise perfect plan.
Idiot. Police are searching for a crook targeted a shoe store in Miami. When the crook couldn't get into Lux Miami from the front of the store, he decided to get inside by cutting a hole in the roof. Oh, shit. At around 2:30 a.m. Tuesday, surveillance video from inside the sneaker store along the 2300 block of Southwest 22nd Street showed the crook climbing the wall where the shoes were on display. When he comes down, he kind of falls off, comes to the ground. He just goes up quick and starts grabbing every shoe here, said store owner Johan Alvarez. It's a big hit, definitely. The store owner said they suffered a $15,000 to $20,000 loss, and they don't have insurance.
Wait, hold on. So he stole 20 left shoes, and he's saying, so each one of those left shoes was $1,000?
It may have been like one of those high-end, because there's sneakerheads. You heard the term sneakerhead? Like people that collect like super expensive, like the Yeezys that cost, I don't know, $10,000. I don't know. I'm making that up. But like there's like expensive shoes out there.
That's true.
So maybe it's one of these like designer expensive.
I think I've seen one of those videos on YouTube where it's like going sneaker shopping with some random celebrity, and they're like, well, I guess that kind of fucks it up, right? Because it's not like they can sell the right shoe. it's like functionally, like it's like they might as well have just stolen the whole pair.
Right.
God, $1,000 shoes. Lord.
Police said Lux Miami was not the only store targeted. These crooks, they actually made 3 holes on the top of the roof, 2 of them not being in this business, so it's more of the damage that they caused than what they actually stole. Okay,
so they made 3 holes. So did one of the crooks have to go through the 2 hole?
That's a 1 hole. That's 2 holes. That's 3 hole. You go to the 2 hole. Holy crap!
I'm sorry.
Lux Miami. Let's see. Lux Miami opened in December. Alvarez, just 20 years old, said he built the business himself and is hoping that the thief realizes he only has 20 left shoes and brings them back. Just come forward, drop off the shoes, leave them here. I don't need to turn them over to the cops. I just don't care about that. I pray that God puts some sense into them just to do the right thing at least.
He's gonna go back for the right shoes. They're gonna have to make a second heist.
Although in the surveillance footage, one thief is shown, police said that may have been working with a friend, and then they go on and leave the phone number of the Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers.
It's just amazing that they went so far as they cut holes in the roof, and they couldn't figure out to actually go to the back of the store.
I don't it's just logic. Like what? Why would you steal? Okay, I understand the need for wanting to, like the theft of wanting to steal something that was expensive, great, but like you have to know when you're doing this thing that like, oh shit, these all are left shoes. What are you gonna do with half a pair of shoes? Nobody's gonna buy. They lose their value if you don't have a full pair of shoes.
I gotta imagine that they set off some sort of alarm and they were just panicking and they were just like, oh, just grab stuff, and they just ran out. But if it really is that high end of a shoe store where it's $1,000 pair of shoes, did they really think there wouldn't be any sort of like monitoring system? Or you know what? Next time when they break into Foot Locker, they're going to be more experienced. They're going to be like going in through the air vents. They'll be able to Catherine Zeta-Jones their way around the laser system.
Hey, I bet you that thief can't dance. Because he got 2 left feet. Oh, that was dumb.
I saw where you're going. I'm like, oh, I got to let him get there.
I wanted to see if you could bust the joke. It was a dumb joke. So that was it for Florida Man. We are now going to wrap up the episode by discussing some stuff that's on the news. But, I'm not a very political person. Aaron's a bit more.
I mean, this isn't really politics exactly.
It's
more like World War. there's just like people getting murdered and killed.
The whole Russia-Ukraine incident, like I don't know much about it. I know Ukraine. I know Ukraine's being invaded by Russia. Putin's being a big bad boy and like threatening like nuclear attack and you know, Ukrainians are fleeing the country.
The civilians are, a lot of them. Okay, let me go back a little bit. Let me give you some context. And we can cover the parts of this that are a little bit political first.
Okay.
Just to give you the context where. So first of all, the current president of Ukraine is named Vladimir Zelensky, and he does not have a background in politics. He has a background as a comedic actor. Like his production company like made kind of like an SNL type of show, but in Ukraine. And then this is the craziest part. They made a sitcom called Servant of the People, where I think it was a school teacher has a video go viral in Ukraine and then somehow ends up as the president of Ukraine. This is their sitcom.
Okay,
so like I watched one scene from it where like it was supposed to be like Angela Merkel was calling him to tell him like, oh, you got into the European. Well, my mic is cutting in and out in my headphones. Does it sound okay in your end?
It's okay here.
Okay. Anyhow, she it's like the German chancellor calls and is like, oh, you've accepted Ukraine into the European Union, and he's so excited. He's like, oh, the Ukrainian people. Well, she doesn't say Ukraine. She says we've accepted you into the European Union, and he's so excited. Oh, the Ukrainian people are so happy. And she's like, oh wait, is this Ukraine? I'm sorry. Which is the most insane part of this, where he was playing some guy who just like randomly became president of Ukraine. And then he must have had the idea, you know what? Like
I'm gonna run for president of Ukraine.
And he was really good at like viral marketing and videos, and he used Instagram a ton to communicate to everyone. And he like won in a landslide.
This is in real life.
In real life,
not in the show.
In real life, like he kind of he parlayed his fake presidency into a real presidency, and there was a lot of like breaking of the fourth wall where like he would record videos as the character from the show speaking to people in real life for his campaign in real life. It was just really, really wild.
Yeah.
And the first time he got in the news in the United States was during the 2020. Well, actually, it was before the 2020 election. It was during like kind of like the middle of Trump's presidency, and that was the first time that Trump got impeached was because Trump had basically told Vladimir Zelensky like, we're not going to send you any more military aid. Like there was like $400 million of military aid that was supposed to go to Ukraine unless like you give me dirt on Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden's youngest son is kind of like a little bit of a fuck up.
Yeah. Just
like trades off his dad's name, whatever. And he had some business dealings in Ukraine where he got on the board of something, and it really sounded like he was just kind of using his dad's name to get a fat paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump was basically, I don't know if you want to call it bribing or blackmailing or whatever, but was like, we're not going to give you aid. And that was a big deal because Ukraine already had a lot of tension with Russia. There's a part of, you might have remember this from the news, there's this annexation of Crimea, which basically there was a small part of Ukraine that was very Russian leaning anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And Russia just sort of like slid in there. This was back in Obama's presidency. It like kind of slid in there and just took it over. And there wasn't really any fighting. I mean, that part of Ukraine was a little bit more pro-Russia. And yeah, they just went in and occupied it and scooped it up. And they're like, this is ours now.
Yeah.
And they kind of got away with it.
I am the captain now.
Essentially. So Ukraine was like already, on notice. Like Russia just scooped up one of their... one of the parts of the country. It would be like if Canada was just like Maine's ours now.
Yeah.
Like, and we're like, wait, what?
We'd be
fuck
like
Canada.
We'd be like, how about just take Michigan? You can have that one.
Yeah, I feel like they would probably fix Flint and Michigan might be like, yes, please. Can we please have healthcare and clean water? Yes, this sounds great. But yeah, Ukraine wasn't so thrilled. So that's why when the military aid was withheld. It was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And that was the first impeachment of Trump. But that was a little bit more confusing. Fast forward to present day, like Russia has had this whole playbook. Like it's a book, a literal book. You can buy it and read it about how they're supposed to take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, they're supposed to start with taking over Ukraine because according to the book, Ukraine, it doesn't have like as many major exports, so it's not as important to the rest of the world. They don't have this like distinct culture. This is what the book says. And like it would just be easy to absorb. And then they're supposed to move on to Finland. There's even a part about the U.S. how it says like, that Russia should foment dissension in the United States. And like specifically there's a part where they're like, we should use like the Afro-American racists in the U.S. to turn them against, the rest of the political system. It's crazy like how much they're following that playbook.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the tricky part though for Putin is he's thinking, this is going to be just the same as Crimea. We're just gonna kind of like roll the Russian military in. They're just gonna roll over and give us the country, and like maybe we'll get some economic sanctions where we don't make as much money for a little bit, but we're gonna have a whole fucking country. It's worth it. Because he really just got kind of like a global slap on the wrist when he took over Crimea. So there's a couple weird parts of that. For one, they didn't call it a war and invasion. They called it like a special military operation. The Russians did.
Mm-hmm.
So they have all these conscripts. It's basically kids who just have to be in the Russian army. Like they got drafted into it, and they're only supposed to fight in Russia to defend Russia, but they just get rolled in to Ukraine to like take over the country. And what Putin was not really expecting, I think, is that the Ukrainians are just fucking gangsters.
Yeah.
Like they for one, Zelensky was like, "Fuck you! Like I'm staying here." Like he's been in their capital city the whole time. Like he refused to leave, and then I kind of had a sense because as this was all mounting, as the Russians were moving their troops to the borders, you'd see like these videos of there was one that like it was like a Ukrainian grandmother, and she had some sort of like high powered rifle, and she was like basically saying like, yeah, if Russia comes into Ukraine, like fucking be ready. And I was like, God damn it. I mean, they so many Ukrainians had that mindset, and then that's how it played out. I mean, like one of the most just badass moments was there was this like small island off the coast that there had some sort of tactical thing, and there was a Russian warship that had come in to take it over, and the Russian warship goes over communications like such and such island. This is Russian warship, like prepare, surrender or prepare to be fired on. And then they transmit back. They're like, Russian warship, go fuck yourself.
Nice.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just been moment after moment like that where, I mean, they're just refusing to give any ground.
Yeah. I've also seen a few though that there is within Russia itself, there are people that are like, hey, this is bad. Like, what the fuck are we doing? And there's been, I know there was this thing on the news where like one of the reporters like interrupted some news broadcast live and was like, hey, this because it was like Russian propaganda. It was like Russian what was it called? State-run news, like Russian state-run
media.
News. And they were running the story that they wanted to spin for the people to like watch. And then this one lady was like, hey, don't fucking listen to them. They're lying to us, blah, 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 blah. So I'm sure there's a good majority of Russian people, like national people, that are like, this isn't good.
For sure. Well, so it's really tricky there because, I mean, we get hit, obviously, with like a lot of propaganda from a lot of different directions where their propaganda is a lot more consistent. So what Vladimir Putin is telling the Russian people is that they need to go. There are like Nazi extremists, like they're going in to save the people of Ukraine. Like that message is what's being delivered to a lot of people, and kind of the same people that buy into the shit here, like like a lot of elderly folks and I mean, they think
they
like,
get incensed and they start carrying torches and shit.
Well, no, they're like, yeah, like we're doing this great thing. We're fighting Nazis in Ukraine, which is, I want to. I was going to say hilarious, but Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is Jewish.
Yeah.
So it's just like such a weird message. But there are a lot of people in Russia that are like, oh yes, this is good and just, and we're doing the right thing. But to your point, Armando, there have been huge protests, and they have to be really like low key about how they organize them, because they don't have the right to protest like we do in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, but there have been these huge demonstrations of thousands of people in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and they're just getting thrown in jail.
Yeah, they're getting thrown in jail, or they go missing in some cases. Apparently, like high profile people are like, they put the risk of like sticking their neck out and showing discontent with what Putin's doing, and then next thing you know, they're gone. They're like it's basically like Hillary and the people that she's managed.
And that's what I've been saying. I'm like, we
disappear.
need to send Hillary into Moscow so she can just crawl through the air vents and take out Putin. That was my solution. But I guess she's not doing it. She only wants to murder, assassinate certain people. But
and I don't know that you're gonna have the answer. I don't know that maybe. What does Putin get out of this? Like, what is he trying? Is the end game like Russia dominating the world?
Yes.
Like, is global domination like that's?
So, post World War II, like it used to be the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of these countries that were all under this one banner.
The USSR, remember that?
Yeah, but it got broke up, right?
Yeah.
Now it's just Russia and Belarus and all, and like he still has a little bee in his bonnet over that, right? He wants it to be. I really think he wants it to be the Soviet Empire. I think he wants to go past the Soviet Union and like be like the dominant force in the world. And I think the way he looks at it though is like, we had this great like powerful empire, and these fucking Westerners. They really does not like the West. And to him, it's not just the United States. It's like, England, France.
They consider parts of Europe the West. Also.
Yeah, the Western Europe, right? So he thinks that they should be ruling basically all of Eastern Europe, and then I think part of the problem is he's got two ticking clocks that he has to contend with. Ticking clock number one is the obvious. He's getting older, right? Like, and just to your point about people disappearing, it's like, oh, but the Russian people love Vladimir Putin. He won the election with 110% of the vote. Like, well, and there was like one of his most staunch political opponents did just sort of like disappear and then had like acid thrown in his face. Like the guy made it, like somehow lived, but he's like horribly scarred.
Yeah.
So he's been gripping onto power and refusing to let it go. But pretty soon, dude's gonna be dead. Yeah. So if he wants to enact this like 150-point plan of taking over the world in that book I mentioned, yeah, he only has so much time left. And this is the other thing that I actually think is sort of key. Russia makes a lot of money on oil exports. Like, that's one of the problems that sort of arose and hopefully will be a silver lining from this whole conflict. Russia sends out so much oil, and countries like Germany in particular like depend on it. Like, they need Russian oil just to keep the lights on, basically.
Yeah.
And so like Germany, it's not as easy for them to sanction Russia the way we did. Like, for us, it's like, okay, like gas prices go up, this is fucked, but we can still keep functioning. I don't think Germany can, and I'm hoping that really accelerates their move to clean energy, because that's the other problem that Putin has. It's like, if we really do go to solar and wind and all that stuff,
he's fucked. He's got no. They got no.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. They still, I don't think the vodka industry is going to carry Russia completely.
It's like in Borat, like the #1 exporter of potassium.
And look, they've got other exports. It's not like 90% of their economy is just oil, but that's a big enough chunk where it's going to really cripple them. And so I feel like he's getting a little bit desperate. He's like, oh, I'm going to be an old man, and then even absent of that, like, the less and less these countries depend on oil, the less and less power Russia wields over them economically.
Yeah.
So he's like, fuck it, let's do this. Yeah. And the the biggest point of contention right now is about a no-fly zone. Is that sort of keyword come
Yeah,
up
I've heard
in
it
your...
before. I've heard it before. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the issue, and just stop me at any point if you've got questions that I can answer. But the ground assault was not going well for the Russians. To your point, there were reports of like just regular Russian soldiers sabotaging their own caravans. So there's this huge convoy of like tanks and everything that was just kept inching towards Kiev, which is the capital city of Ukraine. And it got to where it was like 40 miles away, and it just stopped because apparently like they couldn't get food transports in, like their tanks kept getting sabotaged, like and these ground assaults where they literally thought they could just roll into the cities and everyone would just, all the Ukrainians would just wave the white flag, are not going well. But yeah, like that just hasn't been working out. So Russia has started just going in with their aircraft and just bombing the shit out of everything. Just like civilian buildings. Like the one that people are really upset with was the Russians just bombed. It was like an art school that 400 Ukrainians were sheltering in because the rest of that city was basically destroyed. And I mean, I don't know how many people they killed in that one attack, but it's just not soldiers, nothing. I mean, it's I believe that's technically a war crime. Like, I don't think you're supposed to bomb civilian buildings, and Ukraine is trying to figure out how they contend with the Russian Air Force. Yeah. So what they're asking for is like they want a no-fly zone, meaning an area that NATO would enforce and say, yeah, Russian planes, you can't come in here, and basically cutting off access to Ukraine. And then the one problem is that if Russia did, which they probably would just be like, fuck you, NATO, what are you going to do about it? That it's either you just let them do it or you have World War III, just like legit full blown. Yeah. Crazy. I think I forget what episode it was. We talked about like what would happen in 2022 that would be like, you would be like, it wouldn't be surprised. We talked about alien invasion, blah blah blah, World War III. It's like it. I think to young kids. I mean, we didn't go through a period of war. We did that kind of the Iraq War, sort of. The whole time we've been alive, practically, there's been a war, but it's not been. It hasn't been white people. Yeah. But is that fucked? Do you think how much of that do you think plays a part? Of what? Where it's like I'm like I think there's people in the U.S. who are like, look, war happens, we can't get involved. We can't be the global policeman. Wait, what? It's white people? Hold on. Yeah. I mean, it's fucked up to say, but maybe the Russians were onto something. Well, you just gotta understand that when wars happen, it's usually like it's politics. That it's not like the people don't like, we don't hate Russians. Russians probably don't give two fucks about, like, it's usually just the people up top that are doing these dumb, silly things, and it's pulling for power and money and greed, and who suffers is like the poor people, the normal, common, everyday, right now, because it's not affecting us directly. Most Americans are kind of like watching it. Like, we're watching the stuff roll out when, protesting and all that stuff. But until it really hits home where, they do a draft and then we have to start sending kids to war, then we're going to be like, oh, fuck, this shit's crazy. You know what I mean? We haven't gotten there yet. But if they enacted a draft, I'm sure we would then really start giving a shit. You know what I mean? Well, so what do you think we should do about it? The answers are, I'd say the answers are like nothing, but we've already gone way past that. I mean, there's economic sanctions. Just try to hit their pocketbooks, or we could get like directly involved. It's there's no right answer, because what ends up happening is we end up going into things like this with a secondary or tertiary agenda, like another agenda that is, I mean, look what happened to Iraq. All that Iraq and Taliban, all that shit. Like we gave the Taliban power. You know what I mean? And so there's always like some other hidden agenda that we in the U.S. typically have had. It's not like money. We're not saints. Our country, our politicians are not saints. These people up top end up, the power drives them crazy, and then they start doing some corrupt, stupid shit,
And so us, like the right thing, the benevolent thing to do would be to get involved and say, hey, Russia, don't do this, cut the shit out. But we're not going to do it. But
when you say involved, you mean like boots on the ground, like troops?
Something. But the thing is, if we do, guarantee you, we're not doing it with that agenda of being like the humanitarians that we say we are. There's going to be some politics behind it for sure.
Well, I mean, here's the other thing, and this is one of the deterrents. Like, Putin is not acting rational right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the kind of cost benefit, like, it's not really working out. I mean, and he just keeps trying to push forward. And the second part, which makes someone acting irrationally especially worrisome, is I believe that Russia still has the second largest store of nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And he's waved that kind of nuke flag a little bit, where it's like, hey, fuckers, if you interfere, we're going to start sending out nukes. I'm crazy. Who knows what I'm going to do right now?
Yeah.
And that was sort of the vibe anyway. So it's like, do we actually get involved? Like, who knows what he's going to do? I mean, you'd hope that that's just a card he would never play. But, like, I don't know. Who knows? He's bombing. The Russians shelled a maternity hospital.
Yeah, they're fucking dumb. But you know what? Obama did a bunch of bombing in random places where innocents were killed too. You know what I mean?
That's true. I don't think this is an equivalent.
It's not, because we're not going after like global domination. We're not trying to like enforce democracy. Oh, we kind of are, but we're not going to try to like impose the way we live or our customs and say the world has to do it the way we do it. We're doing it for money. Like, our guys up top are doing it for money or for power, you know, just like every other fucking political, you know, asshole up there. That's why I don't like politics. Is like benevolent people don't rule. And people that like are really well-meaning, they don't reach the top. They never, like, it's not that they never will, but it's very hard for them to stay pure, to stay benevolent. The same can be said for even like it's difficult. It's difficult. It's very, very rare to see like any politician anywhere here in the States where they actually have a good intention. There's always something else.
Well, I wanted to. This is also the first war that's really been covered by social media.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah.
I mean to this extent, because that's the thing. I mean, Ukraine, what more was a first world country. Like, these are people who, you know, they're like graphic designers and software engineers, and they've got, you know, cell phones with cameras that they could broadcast
live feed and all this shit. Yeah.
I mean, so there's like these images of you know, like people getting shot and everything. And but like one of the just weirdest parts to me is that there's this whole, I don't even know what to call it. There's people that are just like fanboying over Zelensky, where they're like, that's, you know, the president, because he has been a badass, right? Like, he's right in the middle of stuff. He's, you know, broadcasting with sandbags over the windows because. And I think they've tried to assassinate him like 3 times. They're sending like assassination squads in after him. This dude's just like, fuck you, I'm not leaving. That's all great, but there's people like, dude, this guy's like an action movie star. He's blah blah. It's like, no, like, it's not a movie, guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably, there's a high chance it's not going to end well for him.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway,
are we just so desensitized from social media at this point where like we can't register like what's actually going on? Does it just seem like a really like one of those like shaky cam like movies that they film?
Well, you think about it like in the context of and we're referring to like kids now, right? Young kids now have so much access to so much shit that all this stuff, it doesn't shock them. Like, people our age, some of that we still get kind of like caught with our mouth open, but like kids watching anal gangbangs and then you know what I mean? Like it's war. It doesn't, you know. Again, they're thinking it doesn't affect them, and until they get drafted, or their little brother, little cousin, or their kid gets drafted, then it's like, oh fuck.
Would an anal gangbang where someone's from the back just throwing pies at all the people, would that affect them?
Just because of the pies. Just because of the
right?
pies.
You know what? That's the last frontier. There's no section on Pornhub for pieing.
There probably is, dude. There probably
God damn
is.
it, you're right.
We can talk about all this Russia-Ukraine stuff for a long time, but you know, we're just keep in mind we're we're just two idiots. I mean, I'll say it. I'm an idiot. Aaron could say he's an idiot. We're degenerates. You know what I mean? We just have our opinion, and it's not good. No one wants to go to war.
I don't even know if that. I'm like, I don't have a strong opinion even on like what we should do exactly. It's just the situation is crazy. This is the first time where it does have those actual like World War II vibes. And this is kind of how it started the first time. I mean, it was Germany who was just kind of like we would just go over here and snatch up this country, and don't and then all of a sudden, shit escalated, and it always had the yes, like Iraq, I feel like was a lot easier to ignore because it never really felt like it was going to spill over here. Maybe other than like the odd terrorist attack, but that wasn't even
the odd 9/11 like the little old
Except the weird thing was, as we know now, like that actually had nothing to do with Iraq, and there's been way more domestic terrorist attacks than otherwise. So, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. It just it does have that like
we spent a lot of time on this. This episode's running like super long already.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to just kind of throw in there to wrap the episode up? Because anything little too short?
Nah.
No. I just want a quick shout out to my other Lancer brothers, James Marshall, Zach Steckline, Christian Bollicker, and myself have reenacted our old bet we used to have when we were like much younger. We each have a team in the AFC West. I'm a Charger fan for sure. James Marshall won part of the bet, so he took the Chiefs like 15 years ago or so. Zach's always been a Raider fan. Bollicker's always been a Bronco fan. So we used to be where whosever team made it furthest in the AFC West got a 30-pack of beer from the other three guys. So basically, party is like I would win. I'm the king. I get 90 beers, and you guys can drink with me, but you're paying for it. I'm just hanging out. That's kind of how it worked out. This year, we reenacted that bet. I don't know what the stakes are. We've talked about the losers all have to fly. Because now that we used to be together in Whittier, now we're all in different states. So we're thinking like the losers may have to fly in to whoever the winner is. So if Zach wins, we all have to fly to Walla Walla, for example. Bollicker wins, we all got to go to Seattle. So that's the part of the bet was we're all going to fly into whoever the winner is and then party with them. And the party's like on us, the losers. No offense to the other three guys, but likelihood is the Chargers to win. Sorry, guys. You guys are gonna lose. Thanks for the beers and welcome to Denver at the end of the 2022 football season. Because I'm gonna win. Chargers are gonna win. They're the best team in the AFC West. Anyway, I don't have anything else to add. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Sorry it went a little longer.
Well, you know what? If an episode's going really long, I give you guys my permission to stop listening. It's okay.
Well, yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. We will talk to you guys in the week.